God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That video right there was the moment 10 occupation terrorist missiles hit the capital of Qatar, betraying a country which has been loyal and obedient to the hegemonic US power, but it seems they want to respond in ways never seen before. There's panic shaking Benjamin Netanyahu's camp right now. Yesterday, Israeli warplanes carried out an outrageous strike on Qatar, hitting a residential compound in Doha's Leqtaifiya district. They claimed they were targeting senior Gaza officials who had gathered to discuss a ceasefire deal. The truth? The Hamas leader survived. But 6 innocent lives, including Qatari security personnel, were lost in the process. And instead of intimidating Gaza leaders or silencing Qatar, this reckless act has backfired spectacularly, exposing Netanyahu as a war criminal gone mad with his obsession for a so-called Greater Israel. There are reports of Qatar mobilizing its air force and army for a showdown. Another report claimed that other Arab nations and Turkey could join the foray to deter Israel. A report this morning also added that Qatar plans to orchestrate the arrest of war criminal Netanyahu in covert legal operation. You find out more about the military options by Qatar in the video. However, before I go further, I want you to take a second, hit that like button. Push this video out through the algorithm so more people see the truth that mainstream media tries to water down. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Open-Minded Thinker show. Join the conversation because your voice matters. Drop me a comment below. Do you think Netanyahu just triggered his own downfall with this reckless attack? I want to hear your thoughts. Now back to Qatar's response. Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman al-Thani didn't mince words. He called Israel's strike an act of state terrorism. He warned that Qatar reserves the right to respond while vowing that nothing, absolutely nothing, would stop Doha from continuing its mediation role in Gaza.
Qatar is committed to act in a decisive way with anything that would target its territories, and will reserve the right to retaliate and will take all the needed measures to retaliate. And under the directives of His Highness the Emir, the security of the citizens and the residents is our top priority, and based on that, as of tomorrow, God willing, we will review all the policies and the directives in order to deter such actions and measures in the future so that it cannot happen again. And this will be also the committee will be headed by State Minister Mohammed al-Khalifi, who will take all the needed measures in order to retaliate and to respond to this attack against this attack.
And here's the shocking part. Qatar, a country that once carried out military drills with NATO and even worked quietly with Israel in Syria, is now talking tough. Reports of fresh military drills across Qatar have surfaced, and whispers are growing that Turkey and other Arab nations may coordinate to send Netanyahu a message. Israel's days of unchecked aggression are over. Former Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter went further, warning that this is Netanyahu's Greater Israel project in action, and that chaos across the entire region is only a matter of time.
How do you think Saudi, Kuwait, Oman, they've all condemned the attack, Turkey, Jordan will respond to this attack, Scott?
Not a damn thing. They won't do anything. What can they do? They're going to recall their ambassadors. They're going to launch a demonstration of force. They're going to evict American forces from their soil. They won't do a damn thing. You might hear some screams out of Turkey, but at the end of the day, Turkey's a NATO member who is not going to divorce itself from the United States. The Arab world will make some noises, but they won't do it. Why? Because not a single one of them supports the Palestinian cause. Not a single one of them is going to sit there and be seen as aligning with Hamas. I mean, this is why it's a free ride for this president, because the United States and Israel have successfully, pressured the Arab countries into taking a stance that basically says they will be silent in the face of genocide. Come on, Mario, let's remember what's happening here. Genocide, active, ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people, and the Arabs haven't said a damn thing. They're doing nothing. And now you expect the Arab world to jump up and scream because Israel took out or tried to take out Hamas leadership? You know how unpopular Qatar is in the Arab world? It's not like people are going to be bending over backwards saying, oh, yeah, let's rally around Qatar. No, nothing is going to happen. Nothing except, and this is where I'm worried. If I was an American negotiator, I would resign right now. I would never go and represent my country anywhere, because now I'm free game. Now it's hunting season on American negotiators. Steve Witkoff's life expectancy in the Middle East is about 0 now, because the United States has shown that they respect nothing, that we are nothing. All we understand is the law of the gun. And we've just legitimized terrorism. Okay? Whatever moral ground we wanted to take about October 7th, it's gone, finished. We never again can speak up about international law and the niceties of law. We just legitimized everything Hamas did because we sunk to their level, if that's the interpretation you want. I don't take that interpretation, but if we're going to condemn Hamas for violations of international law, what did we just do? A massive violation of international law. So the Arab world will do nothing because they can do nothing. They're incapable of doing nothing.
From Iran, Professor Mohammed Marandi called it a wake-up call for Gulf countries, saying Netanyahu will come for them too once he's done with Gaza.
It is a key moment. Qatar and Erdogan, they did everything possible to help the Americans in this region. And they're, by the way, they're not allies of the resistance. Qatar helped undermine the axis of resistance in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Yemen. Qatari television, Al Jazeera, shows sympathy for Palestine, but it does not fund the resistance. It doesn't help the resistance. And the only reason why Qatar and Turkey host politicians from Hamas is because the Americans let them do that. It's because the Americans think that this way they have a bit of leverage. Because Qatar takes care of Palestinians, they give them good places to stay, they give them funding, and that way the Americans believe that they can create divisions between the political wing and the military wing, which so far has failed. But that has been the objective. If the Americans had told Qatar to get rid of the Hamas offices in Doha, do you think that the Qataris would have said no? Of course not. The same is true in Istanbul. Remember, when Erdogan arrested that pastor, saying that he was involved in the coup, the Americans put a couple of sanctions on Turkey and he kneeled. Erdogan kneeled. And even though he was condemned by Turkish courts in Turkey, Erdogan handed him over to the United States. Do you think if the Americans tell Erdogan to shut down Hamas offices in Turkey that he will say no? Of course not. But this is a lesson learned for people across the world. I'm not talking about the regimes themselves, but people on their payroll, but also ordinary people across the world, that it does not protect you being an agent of the United States, being a proxy of the United States, or if I want to be more kind about it, being, let's say, an ally of the United States, even though none of these countries are allies of the United States, they're all proxies. So in my opinion, Netanyahu has severely damaged the United States. And it has an impact in Iran, a huge impact. The last 2 years have been a learning process for many people in Iran, for the liberals and the youth. The Holocaust in Gaza, then the unprovoked and illegal war, the blitzkrieg that took place as Iran was negotiating. And then even liberals in the West and the Europeans who opposed Trump, they were all supporting this aggression. And the International Atomic Energy Agency lied in order to facilitate the attack and never condemned it. This was all a learning process. But now, the final argument that liberals in Iran make is that if we just change our behavior towards the United States, we will have security. What can Iran do that Qatar hasn't done?
So what does this mean? It means Netanyahu's gamble has blown up in his face. Hamas leaders are alive, Qatar's mediation role continues, and the world is united in condemnation. Instead of projecting strength, Netanyahu looks weak, desperate, and dangerously isolated. His greater Israel fantasy is unraveling, and the very states that once tolerated him are now lining up to call him out. Let me be clear, this is not just about one strike in Doha. This is about the collapse of Israel's moral and political cover. For decades, whenever critics pointed out the crimes of occupation, Israel hid behind cries of anti-Semitism. That game doesn't work anymore. The mask has slipped, the world has seen the cruelty in Gaza, and now Netanyahu has crossed a line by attacking Qatar, a supposed US ally. So I'll ask you again, has Netanyahu just sealed his own fate? Drop me your comments below because this conversation needs your voice. Don't forget to like this video so it breaks through the censorship wall. And if you're new here, subscribe to the Open-Minded Thinker show. We'll keep exposing the truth they don't want you to hear. God bless you.